Yep,
Yeah.
let's go.
Okay then, so welcome to Introduction to Media Localisation, and welcome Singapore as well when you get to watch it. Okay, so just first of all, just a little bit about myself. My name is Ben Coles and my company is Geico Media. I'm from Bradford, West Yorkshire originally, but currently located now in Leeds. I graduated in product design at Brunel University in London, and I've been in the localisation business now for over 12 years. I've been freelancing now myself for 18 months, and I specialise in localisation and multimedia, and also I do some print and web design. Okay, so this talk's going to be about introduction to media localisation. I've called it media localisation to cover more than just typesetting, because now we're more in an age where we're not just doing print localisation, we're also doing web and other things as well. So, talk today, I'm going to start by looking at the basic localisation process, which hopefully most of you are familiar with and handle. Then we're going to go into media localisation specifically and what it is. And specifically I'll talk about three parts to this, which will be file engineering, manual extraction, reflow, and layout tidy up, otherwise known as typesetting. Then I'll talk about some file types to get you familiar with the types of files that you'll be most commonly dealing with, and then any questions. Okay, so first of all, we're going to talk about a simple project that you have at the moment, which will be a basic text file. So when you have a client that comes to you with a text file, they'll ask you to localise it. The types of file I'm talking about here, when I say text file, the basic of basic text files, which are TXT or RTF files, and code files, for instance XML, HTML, JavaScript, things like that. Okay, so the client comes to you as the project manager or the sales representative and says, I have this text file, how much will you charge? When can you deliver it by, and please reply as soon as possible. This is the basic information you want to know. So with a text file, you might know what to do yourself as a project manager, or you may consult with a file engineer. And essentially what you need to know is what's the word count, and does it need any processing of any description. So if we look at this text file now, and we look at the process you handle, these are the stages that are most commonly involved, like the categories. So first of all, you start with the initial analysis and quotation. You look at it, you work out who the best translator would be, etc. And for the actual text file, you might look to see if there's any processing involved. You then do the translation, any QA, and then client review. Okay, so media localisation is really an extension of this process. It's localisation of design files to make a language version. So rather than it just being a text file, raw text that just gets translated, we have some sort of design, and the extra tasks that we need to do is to take that text out of that design, and after translation put it back in again to the design. So for example, here's just a few examples of the type of thing we're talking about. So print works, printed brochures, manuals, things like that. Product labels for foods, goods, websites, e-books, and then more advanced, then e-learning presentations, multimedia presentations, and then nowadays we're in the age of apps in software, which are also viable for translation. There's many other examples as well, but that's just a few to sort of show you the spectrum of things that we're talking about. So processes that can be included in media localization that are not necessarily included in just text translation. We've got file engineering, so that's handling code files. We've got then manual extraction and reflow, which is sort of like the opposite of the accompanying process to file engineering. With design files, a lot of the content will be in code. So because of that, and because of the technologies that are available nowadays, code can be easily manipulated and extraction or insertion can be automated. And this is good for translation because it means those stages can be established and put into place, and they're really quick and easy to implement. Manual extraction is where engineering can't happen. So where you have files that don't have engineering processes available, the text or the content has to be extracted manually by someone sitting there cutting and pasting it out or typing it up into a separate document. And the same goes for when it goes back into the design. That translation then has to be manually inserted back in again. Third thing is layout tidy up. So once the text has been inserted, whether it's by an engineering process or by a manual process, it's not going to look correct unless the layout's manually tidied up. So this is the stage that's referred to as DTP, desktop publishing, or typesetting. I've listed another few items here which can be included, and I've put this in because Global Lingo is currently localising more complex projects, and these may involve things like content recreation, where we look to either redo the source file so that it's more friendly for localization, or we may only have something like a PDF from the client, in which case you need to recreate that PDF as an editable format before you can localize it. Also then for projects like e-learning or multimedia or even website projects, you may also need to involve audio narration localization. And also for these complex projects there's also publishing, compiling and rebuilding the design that's been provided. Usually multimedia projects will contain lots of different formats, so they might have code, graphics, audio, and they all need putting together in that final piece. If we look at the complexity of these items, of these processes, ranging from the basic, which you currently probably familiar with, file engineering, the most common type of process, all the way down to the bottom, you see the range of complexity. So, file engineering. This is something you're most familiar with, as I said before. It's the automated manipulation of text. So the objective is to try and get the computers to do the work. This is good for projects where you have frequent work of the same kind from the client. So first time you get it, you can build this automation, you can establish a good workflow, and then in the future then, as you get more and more jobs from the same client, the profit margin goes up because you've already designed the process in the first place. An example of file engineering would be, an easy example, a simple example would be a search and replace function that you can do in Word or you can do in most document software. File engineering really features in two stages of the localization process. These are the stages that happen immediately before and after translation. So before translation, it's all about extracting the content, the translatable text from files. So you see we have the layout on the left, and then we somehow have to take that text out, give it to the translator, and then after translation, the text then needs to be reflowed back into that artwork. So the next thing is manual extraction. So this is basically the same thing, it's the same thing we're doing, but this time it's manual manipulation. So this is essentially just cutting and pasting. As I said before, it's taking that text out manually, but in effect it's exactly the same thing. We're extracting text before translation, ready for translation, and afterwards we put it back in again. Where these fit into the localization process in general, for more complex projects, is, as I said, before and after translation. So they have pre-translation file processing, you might have either or, manual extraction and file engineering. Afterwards you'll have the same, more file engineering to put it back in again, or manual reflow, plus the extra layout tidy up to make it look good. You'll also find with projects like this that the core stage and the QA is more complex than normal, because the quote is going to take longer to compile, there's more processes involved. From a project management point of view, if the project manager creates the quotes, then they may not have all the knowledge they need, so they might have to consult with not only the engineer but also with the typesetting specialist. And that stage will take longer as well. It's certainly worth giving as much time as possible to the quote. Clients always want the quote as soon as they can, but that stage, in my opinion, is the most important to get right. It's basically the plan, it's establishing what needs to be done for that project. So if you can get that nailed straight away in that first stage, you not only get your costing right, but you also plan out and hopefully set the foundations for a smooth project. Then, as I said, after post-translation file processing, you might have a more complex QA stage. So before you might have just linguistic QA for text file, whereas now, and certainly with more complex projects like multimedia or e-learning, you'll have functional QA to consider as well. So that's checking that the interaction or the flow of the presentation is as it should be. And there's no missing slides or anything like that.